on to episode 3.
My favorite of the season.
Felix. Felix was a personal story. I think if you've seen it, you probably kind of picked up on that. It wasn't something I was initially sold on doing because I knew that it would kind of take a more dramatic turn, and I didn't want to turn anyone off from the idea of, okay, well, I thought this was supposed to be a comedy show, and then it just kind of gets all dreary and dramatic. And I was trying to kind of keep some of the comedy, elements in there, just in a different way. But I still felt like it was important because Felix is kind of taking a back seat in this season. And I felt like that was more on me. I made that choice to do that because I was taking more responsibility for everything, trying to stay focused, especially when it came to directing all of you. I wanted to make sure that I'm getting the best out of you, that you're doing everything that needs to be done. Of course, editing and...
Well, you directed everybody else. I always give the best.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But with this one, I felt like this would be a good idea to really get to know him off by himself, because we always see him at the man cave, but we don't know anything about him elsewhere. So why not take a moment to look within a week of his life and see what it'd be like? Mm-hmm. And then to do that, it was to try and understand what kind of, I guess, what would be his normal days and what does he struggle with. And that's where I kind of tapped into my own, insecurities about failure and not making it and just, am I doing something wrong? And I felt like even having Kitty in that would work as well, because that allowed her to kind of play off of that, because he does kind of come off like a jerk in one scene. And I felt like it was a necessity, but I don't want you to hate him for it. I was really hoping that the audience watched it and tried to understand where his mindset was.
Well, if anybody's ever created any kind of content for somebody, then they've been in Felix's shoes at that point, because you don't want to hear, oh, I like it. Mm-hmm. You really, you don't want to hear somebody.
There's the fine line. You don't want someone to just bash on it just to bash on it.
Right.
But you don't want someone to be ingenuous of saying they like it. You want to know for a fact they seriously and genuinely love what you're doing, and you understand it. When you just hear, oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know how to take it.
Right.
And from my perspective, that's one of those things. So when I ask people, hey, please give me feedback, give me comments, I'm not fishing for you just to pat me on the back or anything like that.
No. I
genuinely want you to say, dude, seriously, this is fantastic. I loved it. Or, well, it was all right. I didn't care for this or I didn't care for that. And I have a few people in my, wheelhouse that will do that for me. And I appreciate that. I don't, I don't feel like it's hurting me. I feel like it's helping me get better, because they'll look at it and they'll deconstruct it and say, maybe this shot could be better, or the sound's kind of, iffy here and stuff like that. And it may be something I'm not seeing because I have blinders on.
Right.
I've looked at it enough times and I'm just ignoring it, but then they'll just point it out and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. And there are times that sometimes I've heard criticisms, especially with this episode, where I wasn't 100% sold on the idea that they were pitching to me, because I had a specific vision in mind, but then I would try it and then I would realize, like, you know what, that's actually not a bad idea. So it actually worked out for me in the long run, just to hear it and actually play with it.
Right.
Because sometimes I think people think, if I know that Katrina and I have had these conversations where she'll pitch me an idea and she'll see that look on my face where I'm like,
yeah, you do it to me too.
but if I sit on it long enough, because at the time my brain is stuck on one idea. Right. So when I hear something foreign to it that just doesn't mesh with it, it's hard for me to put it in place, like find the right puzzle piece to fit it in. So I'm kind of just, I don't know. And that's how I react to it.
Right.
But if I sit on it long enough and I think about it and I can try to work it around, eventually I can find a way to make it work, and then it works out for me. So I don't dismiss the ideas despite what you may think, just based on my face when I say it.
Yeah.
But again, the episode, again, it was really trying to tap into those ideas. I wanted people to relate to it in some way if you've been in that predicament where you feel like that everything you're doing is wrong, and
you just can't catch a break.
You're really not. It's just you feel like the world's against you, and you don't know why.
Right.
And that's why I felt like the Wednesday scene had to really hammer that home.
Yeah.
Because when you just see him scream and
I like
the
that
noise
scene.
and everything like that, that was that moment where you just cannot take it anymore because you're just hazed, and you don't know what else to do.
Right.
I think you should tell him what the first letter that you opened said.
Yeah, I kind of wish that we would have had all the letters here so I could have read them all, because they were legitimate letters that I had written out, just in case you could actually read them. And if there's a way that you can pause and actually read the letter on your screen, then more power to you. Try it out, because there are some genuine letters. Some, like the one that we zoom in on, it was a well thought out letter that was essentially saying, we read your book, we like it, but we don't think it's a right fit for us. Maybe you can find better representation through this person or that person. And it's very professional written letter. I wanted a few to be like that, where you just kind of see that very professionalized, well, we like what you're doing, but it's just not for us type letters. There were about 3 of those. And then there were 3 others that were added. These were, seriously, I looked up online, the worst rejection letters ever written to very popular authors. And, I'm talking like people you'd be like, this guy got rejected for this book? Are you kidding me? And I can't really remember who they were right off the top of my head, but it could be anywhere from Mark Twain to Edgar Allan Poe, with some of their most popular books, and they got rejected. So there was, let's see, I'm trying to think of one of the very first ones. This is a very simple letter. It essentially said, "Dear Mr. Thompson, fuck you and your book. Sincerely, such and such." And that was it. And literally there was a letter out there. It wasn't exactly that. It was more like fuck you, and then that was it. So that was a letter. A genuine letter. There was another one, and it was just bizarre, so I wrote this one around it because it was just as inane as this sounds. There was a letter written to an author that said, "We cannot publish your book because of the lack of..." Now, this is the letter that I wrote. But again, whatever the other letter was, it was in the same regard. It says, "We cannot publish your book due to the lack of coughing." People in life actually cough, and there are not a lot of coughing scenes in this book, and we just feel it misrepresents real life because people do not cough in your book. So we can't publish the book.
So somebody really sent that to somebody.
It wasn't coughing, but it was something as simple as that. And you're sitting there going, "Are you kidding me?"
They didn't blink their eyes enough.
It could have been something like that. Yeah, just something, you're misrepresenting people because you're not having them do this. So that was one of the letters. The third, I really wish I could remember what it was.
Wasn't it the one where you said that we have no doubt this is going to make tons of money?
Yes, it was like, "Oh, we love your book. This is going to be the greatest thing, but it's just not for us." So see ya.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense. It's just like, well, how can you sit there and say that this is the greatest work ever written, but it's just not for you? If you can honestly say that, I don't get that.
Yeah.
So I wrote a lot of letters around, stuff like that, just to kind of play off of that. So if you have an opportunity, if you can see them from your television, your phone, or whatever, by all means, see if you can pull them up and look at them. But the way it eventually plays out, we actually had our first, well, I'd say real guest star in this episode, which was Lacey Finley. She played Alice, which I thought would create another layer to Felix that we didn't know about, because at that point, having her character for Thursday, we realize Felix has a sister, but then we also are hinted at to the character of Jimmy, which again was a character that we did want to have in season 2, but just I felt like there's so much more to that character that really needs to be dug into on a larger scale or in a deeper story, and I didn't feel like this was the appropriate time. But I felt like it was also good to lay out some sort of idea on what the Felix-Jimmy relationship is, because you hear him say, "Oh, Jimmy's going to be there," and he's everyone's favorite. So you kind of get this animosity between them, but you're not 100% sure what it is, other than everyone seems to favor Jimmy over Felix.
Right.
And you can tell that Alice is just, she doesn't, I don't want to say she doesn't understand it. I just don't think she wants to get in the middle of it because she thinks it's ridiculous. And I wanted her to almost be Felix's conscience in some way. You know, someone he can always turn to and talk to. And she's like, dude, come on. You know, and that was another problem that I had as well, is because I didn't want to take that away from Cash in a way, but I don't feel like that Cash, not that he wouldn't be there for Felix, because obviously in episode 6 you kind of get that, where he can be there for him, but there needed to be a different shift in who's there for who for what reason. You know, Cash is a buddy, he's a pal, and he can be there for Felix on some level, but Alice, she's that extra layer that kind of gets in a little bit deeper, you know, and snaps him out of those stupid things when he gets too deep into his head.
Well, that, and I think that the last scene really kind of shows that too, is that this might be something that Cash really is not aware of. Right. Because when you walk in, and that's almost one of my favorite scenes besides the shower scene. Well, I like the scene with Lacey too, though, because that, like you said, like she did an awesome job at that.
She's fantastic.
I really thought she did.
If
awesome.
Anybody who's listening does not know, Lacey Finley is a genuine actress. She's actually had some real roles.
She's in Chicago PD.
She
was. Had an awesome fight scene.
Yeah,
I gave her props for that. Like, even though she chewed me out for leaking the first trailer.
That's right.
She did. That was.
But she threw down. She
did. She fought.
If you can find her on YouTube or something like that, also follow her stream on Twitch, Lacey Finley.
Lacey Finley.
A little promotion.
Lacey.
Don't say Lacey, you idiots.
Lacey.
But no, yeah, she's a genuine actress, and the fact that we even got her, that I can honestly say we had a genuine actress who's been on a national television show on our show.
We got credit now, street credit.
Street credit.
We can buy drugs now. But like going back to the show, the last scene is like one of my favorites too, because when you come in, like I'm just sitting there playing, and I look at you and I say, "How was your week?" And you go, "That was okay." Mm-hmm. So it lets me know that, like you said, Cash is there for some things in life, and then the other things that you deal with personally, that's where you got your sister. Yeah. And you can really see that she comes and helps you out. But I really liked that part.
Well, I think it almost says at that point that the man cave is Felix's escape. Yeah. He comes there to just let everything else go. He wants to be there with his friends. He wants to hang out. He wants to have fun. And he's forgot everything else behind. Because even if you kind of take a look at how everything was structured, somehow, and I don't know how I pulled it off, but for me, this is what it feels like. Everything up to Friday seems like a completely different show. But once you get to Friday and you're in the man cave, it's like you're back to a whole nother show.
Exactly.
And it's weird how that happened, but it did feel that way. That. And then it's just back to basics. And it's like you said, everything's just, you get that there's just a whole nother world out there that he doesn't share.
Yeah, it's my favorite
episode. Not that he doesn't trust Cash or anything like that. It's just, that's just something he doesn't want here. He wants this area to be his safe zone.
Well, I think it just shows that, Felix is a very he's personal. He keeps everything inside. Yeah. And his sister's going to be the only one that can help him with that. Mm-hmm. And then when you have, like later on, I guess in episode 6, when you have we have that discussion about Kitty, that you come to me. Yeah. And then there's other things you come to me for.
Right. But, and we'll kind of stretch on that a little bit.
Yeah. You did awesome in the Felix episode too.
Oh,
really,
thank
you really did.
I
remember that stuck out to me the first time I watched it.
Yeah. You did more than 5 lines. You did a lot.
But you delivered them like a mother.
The story that Kitty tells about the trach and the loogie was actually a legit story.
Mm-hmm. It didn't happen to you though.
No, it didn't happen to me. I'm not a nurse.
Because I'd have thrown up.
I would have thrown up and I'd have stomped out.
I wouldn't have wiped it off the wall either. I'm like, you see what your disgusting ass just did on this wall back here? You get a blanket and you clean it. I mean, a towel and you clean it up.
No, a friend of mine from high school, her name is Katie. She, I knew that she was a nurse, and we wanted to, established that maybe that's what Kitty does as a job.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her and I said, "Do you have any nurse stories that you could share with me?" And she's like, "What are you looking for?" I said, "Just some bizarre nurse story. I don't care what it is."
Did she say neo nurse?
Yes, she
awesome,
did.
Awesome. Yeah. I want to meet Katie.
But I said, "Just tell me whatever." And she's like, "Okay." And she just started tossing me out story after story. But that one that we told in there, and that was the very first one she said, I copied and pasted, and I said, "All right, you're getting story cred because it's going to be read exactly as you wrote it."
Yeah.
So that was all her.
That's awesome. Yeah. Neo nursed the shit out of it. Oh, I wish we could have had like a flashback and filmed that.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't have enough money for that.
No, we need budgets. We need a bigger budget.
In episode 5, there was supposed to be flashbacks. Mm-hmm. That's how I wrote it.
I know. I was thinking about that, like all of us mistreating Charlene, you know?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. Quit jumping ahead. You're acting like me. Quit acting like Cash.
Then you can tell our story. Any more on Felix?
No, I honestly think you should take that and turn it into a short film thing and let them see that. I've been
told that. I'll be honest with you, it's a little overwhelming to hear the positive feedback I've gotten from it because I was worried the dramatic element would pull a lot of people away, but I felt like it's drawn more people in.
I was worried about that too. I was worried about like, is this going to be funny?
Yeah. And again, there are moments in there that you just...
Oh, dude, I laughed the whole time.
Yeah.
I loved it. I'm telling you, it's my favorite episode.
I appreciate that. So, I mean, it's a little overwhelming, you know, and I do feel I'm proud of it enough that I think I could possibly look at doing something like that.
Yeah,
maybe. But
as long as I get to be in it.
I'm gonna sit my ass down over here because these things are hurting my butt.
You sound like Steven.
I'm sorry, I don't have a tiny little ass like you.
No, my ass hurts too. That's why I'm standing up. I got one cheek off this motherfucker right now.
Okay, I'm just gonna hold it here. Okay.
Now, episode 4, that was another episode that I don't really know where the idea for this one came
was me.
from. That was all.
That was me, the wrestling thing, because my grandma used to think wrestling was real.
Okay.
And we talked about that. Like, that was one of the ideas for season 1 that never made it into it. Mm-hmm. I just remember, like, man, I remember watching Hulk Hogan. And just, we wanted to be wrestlers so bad. We would wrestle in the freaking, like, our den. Like, we would really legit wrestle. Like, I got to the point where we could suplex each other. Mm-hmm. It hurt. But I remember seeing Hulk Hogan get beat. Like, he got cheated by... He's fighting Andre the Giant, I think.
Yeah.
He got cheated by the referee. Like, the referee counted to 3, and Hulk Hogan obviously got his shoulder up, right? Mm-hmm. So when Hulk Hogan grabs the ref, like the ref had a twin brother. He didn't know which one to hit. Of course, in real life, I'd hit both their asses, you know, because you just took my belt away. Right. I slept in my world championship belt that night. But that's where, like, I was like, man, I used to think wrestling was real. Like, what if this is what happens in this? And then it turned into that with Pip and Toe.
Right.
I can't remember the idea for season 1. I just remember.
No, I remember you had that story, the Hulk Hogan story. Yeah. And that was one of those ideas that we were trying to find a way to get in, but it just there was never a point to put it in. It just seemed like an oddity. But yeah, I remember that coming over, and then we just decided, all right, well, what would this wrestling episode be about? And it just essentially focused on them wanting to do wrestling or whatever. So it was a matter of trying to figure out what would be going on outside of this that would make what they're doing a problem. Because it's going to be a problem regardless, but what would make it a bigger problem? And that's where the idea of Cash's, job. And I think this was also one of those story ideas that was going to be used in the longer form narrative idea that I had. But I felt like this one, instead of, I think it was almost going to be like he was going to get fired or something like that.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
I thought, no, because that's something big.
Oh, it was. I was going to get fired, and I went on my own.
That's right.
And I ended up working in a comic book store.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where this little idea came from, but it shifted to, well, I don't want him to get fired, but maybe there's a shift in his job, so he's a little on edge because he doesn't know what's going on. So obviously his first instinct is, I'm getting a promotion because his boss wants to talk to me. He's going to come to my house, and he just thinks it's, everything's coming up cash, So he wants to, he's excited and he wants everything to be perfect. And then of course these two jokers. They want to go out there and start messing around.
I don't know why.
Because they just have to. It's that craziness that they do.
Penny didn't wear good panties.
She didn't. No. But also one
of the black ones.
I know. But one of the things I liked about this one as well is it also allowed us to kind of have a moment where Felix was off for most of the episode, because you saw where, there was a scene where Cash calls him and he's like, hey, can you help me out? And I felt like that was another one of those things for their relationship, like Cash probably does on a regular basis. Is like, hey, man, can you come over and help me with this? And
this happened on Tuesday. That's why I called you on Tuesday.
And he was like, nah, I can't do that.
Oh, I'm getting rejected with letters.
Yeah. And that even played into it, I kind of felt like, with the next one, because, the episode beforehand, he was already having issues with his, book. And then in the next episode, he's talking about going and talking to a publisher. So I thought it was kind of a neat, segue into the next episode.
Well, you moved it up, too. So it really the placement was a little better.
Yeah, it was. Because I felt like I didn't want there to be the drama episode kind of in the middle.
I don't even really think. I mean, I know it's dramatic, but still, again,
I understand. I felt like for the one-off to be right in the middle, I felt like it was appropriate.
It was great. I mean, I think it was put in the perfect spot.
But when we get into this one, the hijinks kind of are stepped up a lot.
Oh,
because
dude, there's a pink
this
thong.
One was it was a challenge. This one I think caused me more of a headache at first before we got to another one, because we couldn't get all of our actors here on time. Or there was always schedule shifts, and it kept getting delayed and everything like that. So it was a struggle to finally get everybody here, and we finally did. It was just like, what can we do? But we had airplanes going by, rain, and everything. It was just one thing after another. I felt like we wasted more time waiting to get a shot than we did getting what we needed. So it was just frustration after frustration. It's like, well, if we can just get everything done outside, we can go back in the house and everything will be fine. But the hard work paid off. I felt like, because this one it came out strong.
It did.
That scene from the door where we see Toe and Pip, wrestling on the background while Cash and Penny are talking. The idea was that the ring was supposed to be kind of right outside the door, but obviously it was just not feasible to do so.
Yeah.
So we had to kind of shift gears on how we were going to get them over to the door. So when we kind of rewrote that on the fly, a lot of the other ideas kind of came with it, especially the introduction of the pink Speedo.
Yes.
Because he had those tearaway pants. And I think the idea was that he was going to rip them off as they were doing the introductions, but we never did that, and we saved it for it to be something that, Heath or Toe does on the side and just kind of rips them off of him just to add to that joke. And I think it paid off in spades doing it that way.
Yes, and go back to your face and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of those.
That was especially whenever we did the thing. I was like, hey, what if whenever we're talking to the boss, they're at the window looking, and we see John's ass when he runs off, and I think it'd be when you're like, I don't know. Then the next day you come back, you're like, we can do it. Yes.
And we put it in, and it worked out fine. It worked out great.
Awesome. It was awesome.
And speaking of the boss's car, there's more of that magic right there that I did.
Yeah. There's a lot of magic. Like, you are David Copperfield.
I am. Because I had somebody ask me, it was like, dude, did you break his windshield? I was like, no, dude. Why would you think I broke his windshield?
But my chair got broke when John threw it.
Right.
Asshole.
He did break your chair.
He broke my chair, dude. I sit in it, and it's... I was like, oh, shit. Like, what happened to this? Oh, this is the one John threw. And it's not broke. It's just warped.
Yeah. But we had a new character pop in there. Nehemiah Wilson came in and played Mr. Gallagher.
He did awesome.
I was so pleased that we kind of got him, because I think he was interested in joining us in season 1, but we never had a part for him. And I remember him expressing interest in kind of collaborating at some point. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. We'll try to find, something at some point if we can. And the opportunity was never there. So when it came time to try and find somebody to play that character, I kind of did an open casting call on Facebook, which I do not recommend doing because you get all sorts of crazy people.
We had all kinds of people getting on there
who I don't think really understood what I was looking for and what this actually entailed. I just think that in their mind, they just saw actor, actress, oh, this will be an easy thing. or, oh, this will be easy money. I can do that. And I don't know. I could be wrong. It was odd how fast everybody just kind of jumped on board. But he came to me and he's like, hey, I hear you're trying to find somebody for Man Cave, or, what are you looking for? And immediately I was like, dude, it's you. You've got it, because you already wanted to be, part of this before. So come on, I'm not even going to look any farther than this. So that kind of helped me out, that he reached out the way he did, because it was like immediately you got the job, because I didn't want to look any farther, and he came in, he did a great job. He was a champ. And I mean that in the sense that I screwed up. I had this bad habit this time around of not hitting record.
Yes, because in episode 2, like, I really feel like it would have been twice as good for the girls, because they really went all out, and and then we got done, and you go, I never hit record.
Yeah.
And then, like, you could see all the air let out of them, and like it just wasn't quite the same that next time. Because Jenna had gotten drunk from drinking the wine. She drank all the wine.
Drank an entire bottle of wine.
Yeah, she got drunk, and I don't know if she remembered even 2 lines in a row. One line was, "Hey, girl," and she couldn't even say it. This is like, "Hey, what'd I say?" And then she comments, like, while she's watching the show, she's like, "You can't tell that I did that in pieces." I'm like, it's called editing.
That's right. But yeah, I had this problem with hitting the record button, and there was a scene as I was piecing everything together for episode 3 or episode 4, and I started looking for this one scene where Cash brings Mr. Gallagher inside, and I'm like, where's this shot? And I kept looking through all the footage. I'm like, I don't have this shot. Where's this shot? And come to realize, it was like, damn it, this is one of those times I didn't hit record. And it was probably one of those one take things. It's like, y'all came in, you did it.
I remember shooting it.
That was great. Yeah, and I remember setting it up and doing it, and I just never recorded it.
Yeah, then it came like, did you hit record?
Yeah. So that became a gag where it's like, is it recording? Are you recording? They just wanted to make sure they were backing me up.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciated that after a while, because my mind was all over the place. But with him, it was a good hour drive, I think, here.
Yeah,
so
and he came twice.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, I really hate to ask, but could you come out? Because I forgot to. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, just let me know when. And again, he could have been a real, jerk about it. I mean, we had so many people who could have been here on numerous occasions that kind of gave us crap about, not showing up. And he was just like, yeah, I'll be there. And there was one time, I think, he was supposed to be here that he just couldn't make it.
And he called and said,
hey. He called, things, came up. And I understood that. I was like, dude, yeah, absolutely.
What about that concept?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not going to make it.
It's very simple. Just call ahead of time and just say, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. It's very simple. But some people just don't know how to do that. But no, the episode came out great, especially the punching of the dick line at the end. That whole joke, even with the title going
that came
up
up right then, like while we were doing it.
Yeah, that was just one of those. I knew that's where it was going to be at as that kind of happened. So,
well, I think we started saying, let's play. What if we just freeze frame it like a Rocky kind of thing?
That was the idea, and I was trying to play with that idea. But once you guys did the whole punching of the dick thing, that's where my mind said, like, no, we can't freeze frame this. We're going to play this differently.
Yeah, we got to do it.
So it worked out better that way. I don't really feel like there were any gags here or anything that just kind of stood out, or other stories that...
no, the wrestling ring was awesome.
Yeah, you guys really put a lot of hard work in putting that together.
Yeah, that was nice.
That was definitely a unique setup, but it worked.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, it was a good episode. Kind of came out pretty strong.
It was a fun episode too.
Yeah, absolutely, fun episode, and I think that was one of the reasons that it probably stands out as one of my favorites this season, because it's just fun.
The Speedo, man, like that whole thing. I wonder how many times I had to say that one speech over and over.
I know we did it a few times, because that scene was very technical, at least from my perspective, because I wanted to make sure that what they were doing outside and what you were saying inside, everything had to go in tandem. When he threw that chair, that had to be like right at the end of your speech. So I know we did at least 4 times I could swear by to make sure that we got the shot right. And it was a learning experience for all of us, because I had to figure out how we were going to manage, them doing what they got to do out there and making sure that I'm directing everybody.
Sitting up.
Yeah. So
cut.
We need walkie-talkies next time.
Yeah, we do. I just want to have.
Cool.
It's just awesome to have a reason to buy walkie-talkies.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna get them next week.
Well, it doesn't do us any good
I just
now.
want walkie-talkies.
Okay, get you a walkie-talkie. We'll use them next time.
I don't even have a reason to use them.
walkie-talkies.
Well, we didn't have.
Hush,
them
Katrina! I'm buying walkie-talkies.
I didn't even have to buy mine. I got mine for free.
All right, well, let's move on to episode 5.
Why did you bring her?
See, episode
man
5
cave.
is when I can talk about.
Yeah,
It's my
episode 5.
episode.
Episode 5 was actually written by Katrina.
I was worried about this episode.
Now, tell us where you got the idea for the episode.
I got it from. Oh wait, Katrina wrote it.
Yeah, you ain't got shit to do with this one.
She played Clue one time and she thought she could write this episode.
No, I mean, I don't even really technically remember where I got the idea
She was wasted.
for it, but I wanted to do like a Clue / like Sherlock Holmes thing
You're
because
probably
Toe
watching
was
young
supposed to
Sherlock
have.
Holmes.
You shut your face.
I'm just saying. That's what you were probably doing on Channel 5.
Toe was originally supposed to have like an actual Sherlock Holmes outfit with like an oversized like magnifying glass. I wanted him to have this
They don't
huge
sell those
magnifying
anymore.
glass. And we had the original doll for it was a small one. She was like really tiny and she was really freaking creepy. And I don't even remember what happened to her. I think she got thrown away.
Yeah, she's creepy.
With the original, like, what do you call it? It's not a script. Well, I didn't write the script. You wrote the script.
The story outline.
Okay, with the original story outline, there were supposed to be flashbacks. So when Toe is accusing everybody, you're supposed to have a flashback as to why that particular person hated the doll so much. And
That would have been awesome.
Cash's thing was like he would walk in and there it would be sitting like in his seat in the man cave.
I would have
And
screamed.
Penny would be, she would just like turn around and, you know, Peyton's playing with this nasty doll that he
This
found.
doll is hideous.
Kitty, it was supposed to be like a flashback, but there wouldn't be anything there. It was just like black. And Felix, his was the best because he had, I think it was supposed to be 2 scenes in one. And one was he was supposed to open the cabinets and there it said like where all the chips and stuff were. It was just going to be sitting there staring at him. And then the other one was going to be him going to use the bathroom. And when he lifted up the toilet seat, it was going to be in the toilet. So it was supposed to just like scare the shit out of him.
And what if you would have had her in the cover and you open, you go, ah, and when you turn around, she's all of a sudden standing back there.
You know, I mean, from a technical perspective, I don't think that this couldn't have worked. Just when it came to the script writing process, it just, I don't know, it just didn't flow as well as it should have. So when I was trying to write it out and trying to get it all worked out, I couldn't get it down right. Visually, yeah, it would have been fantastic to do, and I would love to have seen that version. But I couldn't really make that happen.
I think it took away from because this is real. Like, Toe had a big deal in this one.
Yeah, and I think another thing that we had discussed at some point before we even started shooting, but that episode was on the table, was the doll would always kind of be in the background, but we never did that, you know.
No,
so
we never did.
The gag was never there. So, again, little things that would have worked out, I guess, in the long run, should it have played out that way, it would have been cool, but it didn't happen.
I mean, it would have been perfect for the doll to be in the background because it actually stands up on its own.
I know. Let me just talk about that real quick. This doll has been living at my house for at least, well, it went home for a while, and then all of a sudden it showed back up.
just because of a reshoot. That's
I guess, yeah. And like that damn, I threw blankets on top of it because this doll scares me. Like it laid in my den for a while, and like Peyton wouldn't go past it. She's like, "Dad, go to the bathroom with me." Like it's just a hideous. Like y'all did real good, like making this thing look scary. But like I remember coming out to go shoot, I went and put my clothes on, and I come out, and the damn doll standing in the hallway, and I said, "Ah!" like that. I'm like, "Man, screw y'all, man! Like it's during the day, and y'all scared me with this doll."
Yeah, it was too bad we didn't have footage of that because that would have been hilarious.
Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah, that would have been great. I cannot wait to see the bloopers.
Yeah, there will be bloopers. If they're not out already by the time anyone's listening to this, they will be out. I've not gotten around to it, but I will. But I mean, it was a fun episode to put together. We had a few issues trying to get everything together for it. A lot of technical issues coming from Heath, and I'm gonna bash Heath right now just a little son of a bitch, because
oh my God.
He's not here to defend himself. Say it.
Yeah, because if he wasn't here, then he would go off and do something. Because there was a joke written in last minute where he's sitting in Felix's lap, and then Felix looks at him and says, "Did you dye your hair?" And if you watch and you pay close attention, he dyed his hair midway through the episode, and then it goes back to being normal hair at the end. So you'll see a lot of little things like that. And I gave up at some point. It was like, you know what, screw it, I'm done. Then, things are missing. Things change. I got so fed up.
And I don't even think you have to pay that much close attention, because the two hair colors that he had are so vastly different.
I mean, it's brown and then blonde, like white.
It's like brown and then like freaking Goldilocks blonde.
But to be fair, now if you're really not paying close attention, you could probably blink and miss it. So now, if you've not noticed that before now, you'll probably go back and be like, "Oh shit, there it is." So
and his hat, like he lost the hat. Mm-hmm. He couldn't find the hat, and we had to reshoot that one scene.
And then there was loss of his sunglasses disappeared, reappear.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of these little moments in there that I can't do anything about. I just kind of shrug. I'm like,
he shaved.
He shaved.
Yeah. You remember, like we called it, and I guess in fairness to him, we were done. We had wrapped. And
we thought we had,
yeah. And you said, "Hey, I didn't get this one scene." He goes, "Hey, I shaved, like baby butt shaved." So it's like, okay, 2 weeks from now, don't shave, just 2 weeks, and then come in, say 4 lines, and we're done.
Yeah.
And
because, and I'll say, this was not a situation where I didn't hit record. This was a situation where I was reacting to him from the position in which the camera should have been at. So from my perspective, I got that shot. I just didn't realize it. In my head, I did. So that's kind of where we lost that. But the one thing I loved about this episode, it was fun. It was different. It was, kind of stood out on its own. But it also gave me a chance to play around with the music. I know our music in this season, if you compare it to season 1, we went from kind of a rock soundtrack in season 1, where it was more like guitars and metal transitions and stuff like that. And this kind of harkens back to 1930s, 40s, 50s music that you kind of hear on Ren and Stimpy and stuff like that. And I felt like it added a lot of layers to the surrounding and elements to the background, Yeah. And especially for this episode, I used a lot of different stuff. Like you've got the LA Law, doom doom, transitions. I did that. I almost had 3 of those in there. But I cut it back to 2 because it worked better that way. Because I felt like the third one was just a little too much. The Dragnet theme when they come in, I thought was perfect to kind of fit into that. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but when they're actually investigating and taking the pictures, that was from LA Noire.
Oh, was it? Okay, yeah. I was going to say, like, wondering if it was like CSI or something.
No, it was LA Noire. Because I was trying to find something that would kind of have that mellow detective sound to it, and I started listening to that. I was like, this kind of fits with everything else that's going on, because it's trying to hit that 1930s vibe. So I was like, that'll work. And then
I love when you added the pictures.
Yeah. That was a last minute addition. I know we had talked about it, and then I didn't do it at first, but then I thought, well, let's see what I can do with it, and then I just kind of threw them in, and especially those 2 of John or
that is great.
I just thought that would be a nice little.
Did you say that's not even like from him in the show? That's
those were like stills from just behind the scenes stills. He was actually holding a boom pole or something at the time, and I just said, no, let me crop these, and he'll just like it was just something that Toe did on the fly as he's sitting there taking pictures. But I really felt like the music, in the background enhanced every situation. Yeah. Because if you take the music out, I don't think every scene would be as impactful. It would just kind of be dull. But then all the music just elevates the material just a step.
I think that episode was more so than any of the other, as far as the soundtrack drove it.
Yeah, it really did. And that's where I got really, really particular about what I was trying to use. And trying to make sure that I found the right music for it, because if it wasn't there, if it wasn't right, it just didn't fit, and the scenes wouldn't move properly, or they just didn't feel right. So I was a little very, very particular about the music that I chose to drive that episode. And I felt like it paid off in the long run.
Yeah. Great episode.
And of course, the final shot.
It's my favorite.
That was just one of those things that I think the idea was that it was just going to be one zoom in, but we had multiple takes of it, and then I just felt like it was funny to kind of get different reaction shots, just to kind of build that, because the music's actually what drove that scene to become what it was, because when I found that music and it built to that, I was like, no, I can keep this gag going, and it just continues to build, and it just makes it funnier. So
I remember shooting it, like, just watching, and I couldn't quit laughing just at John's face.
Yeah. Oh yeah. John made some good faces.
It was great.
So yeah, that one paid off. And Katrina, I know it wasn't exactly your original vision, but you wrote a good episode.
Well, thank you.
I'm giving all credit to Steven.
But I will another thing, while we're kind of on the subject of her writing episodes, we actually did have I'll call it a lost episode right now. There was a 7th episode written. But when everything started kind of coming down to the wire and we were just struggling to get all the episodes done, we decided to cut it back to 6 because it felt like there's no way we're going to get this done. Everyone's just struggling to be here and all that stuff. Yeah. So we felt like we could remove that one and be fine, because moving into episode 6 now, episode 6, the way I wrote it was almost like a companion piece to kind of pick up from the Felix episode before, because we're kind of going back to him a little bit. But it was also to continue, I guess, his story arc with Kitty in a way, from right. Almost to kind of be a companion piece to the season finale of season 1, because that's where their relationship really grew and we saw them actually get together. So I kind of wanted to complement that in a way with this episode, because I guess I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper. It's technically been 4 years, since they got together. So in the back of my head, I'm like, well, why aren't they married? So then it got me digging around and thinking, okay, well, maybe, Felix has some commitment issues and stuff like that, which led into other, scenarios of what could have happened, what could go down. And then that also led us to the idea of the flashback where we actually get to see one of his old girlfriends. Because I thought that would be interesting to have an actual flashback to see someone else who was important to him at one point that maybe did something that kind of crushed him.
Right.
And I felt like this whole kind of cutting away flashbacks, because it technically was a flashback episode throughout most of it, because when Felix and Cash are talking, he asks him what happened with her, flashback to earlier that day. Then you get into the situation of his old, ex-girlfriend who dumped him, and then we flash back to her and that day, and then we kind of come back, and then kind of what we were talking about earlier, this is where we kind of see the relationship of what Cash will do for Felix, or what he can do for him in some ways, like where he's there for him. He said, I didn't want to leave you hanging. I knew that you going through some stuff, so what's going on? You tell me. And then as he's explaining all these problems, Cash does understand, and he's trying to get Felix to understand, because he also knows Felix well enough to know that maybe he's just not really getting it, or maybe he's seeing things from a skewed perspective, because sometimes when you're angry or you're upset, you just don't have a clear picture. So you need somebody to kind of clear it up for you, and that's what Cash is trying to do. This also gave me an opportunity, and this wasn't something that I wanted or had planned on doing immediately, but since Lacey did such a great job in episode 3, I felt like this would be a great opportunity to get her back, but I did not want it to be, I didn't want her to kind of come in just for something that Cash could do. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I really had to try and understand, what is her role in this? Like, who is she and who is Cash to Felix? Because is everything that she's going to say to him going to be something that Cash could say to her? Right. Or to Felix? And so I was very particular on how I wrote her dialogue, because it had to be, she knew all about the ex-girlfriend. She knew it. So once that got brought up, it wasn't like, oh, you didn't tell me about that. She's like, this again? Like she knows the story. She's like, dude, you've got to get over this. You've got to push through this. Queen. So, and you also kind of understood at that point, Felix was kind of ashamed of that, so you kind of wonder what that story was that he told Cash, that day that they broke up. It had to have been something like, yeah, we broke up. It just wasn't working out. She's got a job, she's moving, whatever. And he just kind of brushed it off. Left out the entire important part about them, him trying to propose or even considering it. But it was eventually brought up. It was just not at that point in time. So you kind of wonder, what was that conversation then?
Right.
But again, his sister knew all about it. And she doesn't pamper him or anything like that. She's like, dude, you've got to get over this. You've got to push through this or you're never going to do anything. So she kind of gives him hell for it. But it's in a loving way. She wants him to stop living in the past and putting up barriers. He's got to move forward. If he ever wants to achieve anything, he's got to do that. So that was kind of her purpose in this, is to clear his head. Just, you've got to move forward. You've got to let the past go. That's it. Right. And so I felt like both Cash and Alice had a very defined role in this to help Felix push forward for this.
Team Callus.
That's right. Callus.
Callus, yeah.
But the ending, Felix, when you start seeing that his wheels start turning after talking to Alice, you're not quite sure what he's doing. You see him, getting dressed. You see him packing a bag.
He's leaving.
He gets in his van and drives off. But then eventually he finds his way to Kitty. And then when he starts conversing with her, it's about, do you pay attention to me? Do you like what I do? Do you think I can do things in life? Do you believe in me? It's pretty much what he's wanting to know.
Right.
Do you believe in me? And she's like, yes, I do believe in you. And that's what he felt like he wasn't getting from Dinah. That she just did not have enough faith in what his abilities were. Whereas Kitty's 100% committed that he can do whatever he sets his mind to if he just wants it bad enough.
Right.
So in this moment, he wanted it bad enough that he decided to propose.
Boom.
But
boom.
At that moment, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be pissed off, there was no definitive answer. Everyone is left wondering what the answer is. And I wanted to do that on purpose.
What is the answer?
We'll have to find out.
What if we don't ever do a season 3?
Well, then I guess I'll answer it later on.
Hey, it was yes. No, it was no. And Felix actually turned her down after she accepted.
Right. He's like, I just had to do this.
Yes. No, you got to change my mind. No. Give me the ring back.
So it's left ambiguous for a reason, because I felt like it was a great way to end the season. And now you're just kind of left hanging, wanting more.
Well, you piss everybody off. They come back and watch the next episode, right?
I would hope. You bait them.
That's what you're doing. That's what The Walking Dead does.
But you see, now what we need to do is we need to pull a South Park. So when season 3 starts off, we don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, Kitty is hanging out with Penny, and Cash and Felix live together.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "What's going on?" It's like everything's changed.
Yeah. See, I feel like that's what we've done in Man Cave from season 1 to season 2. Is like The Walking Dead, like from season 6 to season 7, their world got bigger.
A little bit.
What we're really doing is this is our adaptation of The Walking Dead.
Without zombies.
No, the zombies are there.
Where are they at?
They're in the background.
Okay. So we just never see them?
No, you don't ever see them.
They're there,
They're
we
there.
just don't see them.
Yeah,
They're invisible.
Okay. Gotcha.
And, yeah, they're there.
But I guess the big question right now is, what does the future hold for everybody listening? I don't know. I mean, right now I think we're just kind of coming off of our high of everything, hoping that we're getting a lot of positive feedback, because again, right now viewer counts are a little low.
They're low, but like we've got more feedback this time.
Yes.
And last time we got no feedback, but the viewer count was high. I mean, I guess like later on we got like a lot of feedback.
Yeah, it eventually came. So it's just a matter of how this one's going to play out. I mean, so far, just the feedback from episode 1 has been very positive. And that's not to say that I don't want people out there who, if you have a genuine criticism and you just want to say, I appreciate what you do, but it's just not for me. I get it. I mean, there are a lot of shows out in the world that I don't watch that people just talk about so highly, and it's just not for me. So, I mean, I can't fault anybody for just not digging it. I mean, that's fine. As long as you gave it a chance, that's cool. But it's something that we put a lot of hard work and effort into, enjoy doing, and really kind of enjoy bringing out into the world and seeing how everyone would react to it. And it's been interesting, I'll say that. Just
it's been fun, yeah.
Yeah, and I do have a few ideas on stuff I would like to explore with these characters. It's just whether or not we can do them. I hope this will not be the end of the adventures of Cash and Felix, but like I said, time will tell. It took us 4 years to get here, so who knows what'll happen. But
I think it all depends on everybody.
The audience needs to be there,
right,
pushing us along, because I don't think if we'd have had people saying, "Dude, when's season 2 going to be? When's there going to be a season 2?" I don't think that would have pushed us to do a season 2.
I mean, because it's hard to do. I mean, this is time consuming.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of time goes into this,
and
especially for you.
And not only that, but when we're not getting paid for it.
Right.
You know, if someone was paying, if this was our real job, this would be a piece of cake.
It would take a weekend. I mean, a week, and we'd have a season knocked out.
Yeah, but this is not our job. This is something we're doing on our spare time. I don't get paid for it. And right. I consume. I mean, I literally since February, this has consumed so much of my life. Not only this, but I'm doing this show, Porter and Ale, Savor the Flavor, Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. We've got so much that I've been doing this year alone.
Yeah.
That it's just become very time consuming. So sometimes I don't feel like I have enough free time just to do what I want. Right. But it's all for the craft. You know, I want to do this. I want this to come out, and I want it to be good. And that's why I've consumed a lot of my time into it.
Well, you got to keep putting stuff out.
That's right. And I want there to be an audience, and I feel like that I have had an audience growth over the last year. In fact, we went from 100 subscribers on our YouTube page to we're like around 320 now.
300 and...
It might be more now. I know that our viewer or subscriber count has been going up. But, you know, all of you out there who've supported the show, who've watched, we really do appreciate it. It means a lot to us. I mean, I really hope that you're listening to this now just for a little bit of insight, just behind the scenes stuff. You know, I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit more comprehensive, but
332.
332. See, that's our subscriber count now. That's awesome. And it might be more by the time you listen to this. Who knows?
Maybe. Might be 333.
Nice. Yeah. We could do one more up by then. It could go down too, because I've seen that happen. But
they can unsubscribe. Oh, they can unsubscribe. Yeah,
but it's fine.
I think they should take that away. Where you cannot do that. It's mean.
I've done it, and it's just because I don't watch the channels, and it's no fault to the. But if I'm not watching it, why do I need it?
I feel like they're gonna get mad at me, so I just always say subscribe.
I understand. But I guess that's all we've got. I really don't know of any other stories or anecdotes, unless you guys have anything.
Yeah, I would like to say that since I have the mic now, that nobody really realizes that how much stuff you do for this. You do a ton of stuff.
It's all in the credits.
Yeah, they don't give you enough credit. That's just words like that flash on the screen real quick. Right. You do a lot, and I say that at the end. You do a lot, and thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that.
That's why I show up.
And I appreciate you showing up. You are the one consistent person I can count on to show up.
That's right.
Well, I would hope that you show up. We shoot it all at your house.
No. Even if it wasn't here, I would show up.
Oh, okay.
I would just show up. I mean, it's not just this. It's like Super Mega Crash Brothers. You know, like I show up for that.
Yes.
Like I haven't missed. I've been perfect attendance.
Good job. Yeah. Golden star.
But this ain't about me. This is about him. Like the reason I show up is because of him.
And he does an amazing job.
No, that's all I have, man. I just wanted to tell you I appreciate everything you do, even though sometimes I can be an ass and poke at you. I do appreciate it. That's why I show up.
Well, I appreciate it.
I love you, man.
I love you too.
Katrina, shut up. You hit me earlier.
Well, I hope this has been fun and informative to all of you out there who just wanted to kick back and hang around with us and listen to our stories.
There's a lot of stories tonight.
We did have a lot of stories.
About 2 hours worth.
2 hours. We might split this up into 2 parts.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, Volume 1, Volume 2.
I should say I love you at the end of the first one too.
No, it's fine. People, I've seen 2-parters on podcasts. It's fine. We'll just let them have it like that.
I just want to let everybody know I love you.
It's fine. All right. Well, anyway, guys, we're going to let you go. I've been Stephen White.
I am Todd Stark.
Do I say Mason or White?
Whichever one.
Okay, Katrina.
Well, who
White.
are you? She doesn't
She's
know
credited
who she
as Katrina
is.
Mason, but
I'm
she's Katrina
credited
White.
as Katrina Mason just because he doesn't want white all the way down
And
the
Stark,
screen.
Because that right there causes a problem nowadays. All of a sudden, Donald Trump will be wanting to watch her damn show. Well, I like your show because there's a lot of white in it. I don't want you to watch my show, Mr. Orange.
But thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you later.